We're viewing the Cavaliers 2003 summer program from Orlando, Florida, and this is our Spin Cycle show.
My name is Brett Kuhn. I'm one of the two percussion arrangers for the Cavaliers.
And I'm Jeff Fiedler, co-director of the Cavaliers from Rosemont, Illinois.
This year's show, Spin Cycle, involves all kinds of different cycles, visual, musical, could be rhythm cycles that we use in the third movement. You'll see a lot of different circular forms within the show. When you draw a circle, you start and end in the same place. So you're going to see a lot of things evolve. Keep an eye on the beginning of the show here, because eventually this will also be the end.
Notice the ding reference, which is actually a reference to a washing machine. As the color guard comes out here and they form actually a frame around the cycling aspect of the core, a multi-dimensional frame, you'll notice that a lot of things happen in short count periods. We try to be as spontaneous as possible, using 4s and 8s significantly throughout the show, just to make things happen, to enhance the musical aspect of the show.
Musically, we start out with 2, 4, and 6 note motives, very, very sparsely put through the winds, and as that builds into this front, this is the first time you really get in the full core sound, the full core effect. And right when we hit this last chord, we finally resolve into the key of F, which is a key center that we will revisit several times during the course of the show.
You may notice the color guard has numbers on their back. When we started out, you see the spin cycle in the percussion there. When we started out, the color guard, when they're in that in front of the horn line, they're 1 to 36 numbers. That appears again later in the program.
Thus showing and completing a cycle within the color guard. Right through here, baritone melody takes over, and that's the first time you really hear the first full-length melody that's going to be passed around and used throughout the show.
Notice the color guard flags throughout the show. We go through the entire cycle of color, and also the guard uniforms, very bright in the front, very dark in the back, and different colors as it goes around. That's just to enhance what's happening, because they do a lot of motion towards the ground, but also and around, and you really tend to notice that throughout the program. It becomes a lot more obvious.
And right through here, we really try to dialogue between percussion and winds. A lot of small snippets, a lot of exchange. And then during these bell tones, the keyboards and the tenors really take that motion into this next little fanfare section here.
This is the deli slicer. If you notice that the mellophones open up wide as the rest of the horn line goes into a block. And these are all 4-count moves where each small 4 segment of the horn line moves in, becomes part of that circle, gets shot into a different time dimension. They move a lot faster, step size a lot bigger, and then they move right out in a circle back into the same type of form, performing the same type of motion, 4x4 motion, as the mellophones slice through.
Right here, battery, we just open things up for the winds, get that halftime feel going over the bar line. And there you see, very similar to the beginning of the show, kind of completing maybe a microcycle of the opener. Next segue into the second movement. You're going to hear a lot of keyboard ostinato figures through here. In just a minute, you're going to hear, as the horns play back field, resonating off the back wall, you're going to hear a real antiphonal, what we almost call a celeste sound in the pit, where we orchestrate and use the vibes on each end of the pit and the glockenspiel in the middle to really get a nice, full, resonant, metallic sound up front.
Here we use the color of the guards' uniforms just to display where they're at and what kind of form they're in as they move around in different dimensions, both left to right and up and down, moving into the ground, out of the ground, and through the form that the horn line's playing. You'll notice that there was a deconstruction of the block as it rotated around. Here we're pairing up into what we call the Casablanca section.
Okay, and as we come through this section, really kind of get the pit out of the way and let the sonority of the a cappella brass take over, stating that melody and that theme as a full ensemble.
Here becomes a full core excel. The tube is actually started to get your attention by going in the circle. Then the individual brass elements that go into pairs and do their circles as we continue the motion into a much bigger circular form. The tubas motivate that form that becomes the entire brass and percussion section, surrounded by the color guard with that amount of negative space that's collapsing.
As we come into these circles, this is what we call the Baroque section, and it's canon in form, and as these voices add on and integrate within each circle, these lines layer on top of each other. as we build through this, in the percussion, we're using 3 or 4 different tune snares in the front plus buzz sounds in the battery. So we kind of have a dialogue, creating a real symphonic sense about the end of this section right here.
As we move towards the Glorioso section, you notice we're starting to make form inside. The color guard moves into the circle, and we found a different kind of dimensional aspect to do the spin cycle right there with the cartwheel. And this is the Glorioso section here.
Yeah, the first time really percussion and winds really come together as one complete musical entity with that color guard coming through them, and basically just the climax or the apex of the piece.
And now we're moving out, we're taking it apart, taking our time to do that. Probably one of a little bit slower section of the show, just to give you a very obvious idea of what we're doing. But here again, slow music doesn't mean a slow thought process. We try to be as spontaneous as possible, moving in small segments of 4s, maybe doubling whatever the time is at that point.
Now, the second movement is basically a cycle within itself, because it's on its way back now to where it began. And if you notice in the front ensemble, using that 3-4-5 note melody or ostinato, it's the same thing that we started the second movement with. And we take it down, and you think it's going to end, and just as you think it's over, we bring the pit back up. Then as people start to sit down, we bring it back down. So for us, it was like a wave of sound kind of crashing over the rocks and then coming back down to completion.
This was a pretty novel approach for us, and from the moment we started teaching this, we knew it was going to be a lot of fun, because it really takes the stage down, not just a smaller stage on a drum corps field, but also that we take the dimension down, and we had to have everybody tight and low to make sure that all these little vignettes showed up. We add the percussion in, we do the individual brass playing, which is enhanced by the color guard, and then it just starts to go. We start to pair up, people spin into their sets, and continue to do it. It's very similar to the WGI drumline thing, only we have a drum corps out there, and we're participating with all the elements, the brass, the percussion, and the color guard.
Now musically, what we've tried to do here is, obviously you hear the 4-note motive that the horn line develops throughout the introduction of the piece. Percussion-wise, we've gone to what we call a very organic sound, using shell sounds on the side of the battery, using the timbales, tubanos, and junjuns, different types of drums up front. And actually this is constructed on what we call a rhythm cycle. In this case, it's on what we call a T-high in tabla drumming, so you have that motive that kind of recurs over and over underneath everything, and we use that rhythm cycle to come in and out on some of our different parts within the percussion itself.
Not to miss that section we called the Miles Davis section, where we let all the guys just hang out and have a good time. Even though they're in very restricted space, you'll notice the color guard operates within very tight spacing elements. Here also within 6-foot flagpoles, but really small intervals, small space, and they're doing some pretty dynamic things within that. And same thing happens again over on the horn line, over on the right side, as the percussion just slides through the center of that.
Right here, marimbas, big time octaves up front, using that same 11/8 rhythm cycle, but we're in 7/8. And this use of the octatonic scale through here tonally really gives it an outside feel. It's very ethnic, I guess.
A little foreshadowing of what happens in the little boxes that spin out in the floor. Right here to the shout section, where some big things happen inside the box.
Yeah, just full ensemble, laying it out for everybody right here. Big impact. Now we're going to start exploring some colors as we build through here again, and they bring back that theme one more time.
Again, some very major things happening in some very restricted space.
Now going into the closer. First thing, Pitt's going to start us off here, and you're going to hear a use of chromaticism in a minute, and you'll know when that happens because it's going to almost visually look like a zipper.
Watch the color guard on the right as the zipper happens. Notice the dimensional and the color changes as it moves off to the right corner.
Listen closely, and we're going to hear the timpani foreshadow the tuba melody at the beginning of the Excel.
See the 4 guys right in front, in the middle, in the color guard circling down? That happens a lot in this tune, where little elements here during the Excel, one element just tags on, add the baritones, add the trumpets, add the mellophones.
And as we build through this phrase, what we're doing is we're creating what we actually call the spin cycle section, or our reference to the washing machine. And here it is. That's what you would see if you were watching a washing machine full of Cavaliers.
Right before you put the softener in. You'll notice the flags are on a new color, on the new cycle of the color.
This section right here is called spin cycle, this little phrase. Very aleatoric in the pit, kind of the use of glissando and excel through subdivisions. Then we hit this snare trumpet feature, and at the conclusion of this last impact here in the trumpets, that's what we call the laundry is done, right here.
Push that there. Notice what was happening in the color guard before. You remember the horn line was pairing up and going around each other. Right before the laundry is done, that's what the color guard was doing, and continuing to trade off flags. Okay, here's some more motion, spinning motion.
Now that we're in such a large form, we decided to revisit that organic sound of the third movement for that phrase, just to give us some more impact up front. And now we're back into what we would term more of a concert or classical sound within the percussion and the winds. Question answer dialogue there, brass to percussion.
Watch the two elements of boxes over on the outsides as they push in during the accordion. Those guys just keep going and going and going all the way. Even during this 4 to 5 right here, they're still going between the drums and the rest of the horns.
Then as we build back through this, you're going to see the rotation of all the brass members together in the center, and eventually we're going to work into the front. This right here basically seems like the end of the show, and then it's not. This is what we call the coda.
And we're just going back in, we're winding down, we're going backwards. This is actually a lot of fun to teach because the guys obviously knew what was coming. If you watch closely, the color guard would be back to their numbers. And here we move back in, basically doing every motion, just putting it in reverse.
Basically, we'd call it in music retrograde inversion because everything is going backwards, and instead of ascending, all the lines are descending, and everything moves visually all the way back down to the last crotale note.
It was a pretty big hit with the fans all throughout. We did it the last quarter of the season, and people got it right away. We were all concerned that maybe they won't get what we're doing, and it's a down ending. And people loved it, and were into it from the first day we did it.
Yeah, I think the excitement for them was just watching it all come back to where it started. And again, another great year, another great group of guys.
And that's it, the 2003 spin cycle. I can't emphasize about the staff and the guys, just tremendous effort on everybody's part all summer long.